Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to this episode of Coach Caris podcast, Itchy, Bitchy and Guests. This is week 3 of my 16-week transformation to give you an update. Anyway, right, I'm experimenting with the rooms that I've been in. Not that I have a gigantic house. Obviously, you all know that I've completely downsized, right? So I'm currently in the living room. And this comes from yesterday because it was such a glorious day yesterday. But I was sitting up the stairs in my office, which is effectively the spare room, right? It's quite a small room. And we've still got some boxes in it, which meant Jasper was floating about down the stairs and up the stairs, to be fair. But I had the back door locked because I was up the stairs and I felt like I was missing out on the sunshine. So I brought all my stuff downstairs. So I just brought my laptop down, plugged it in, brought my tripod thing that I use for my videos, my phone, everything, brought it all downstairs and sat on the sofa, right? But in front of the sofa is like a big poofy thing. So I sat the laptop on it, right? But it's so low that I was basically sitting scrunched like this for most of the day, right? Which is not good. So I've had an epiphany as I've got a little tin chest that I use as a coffee table. So I've popped it on the poofy so that I can sit back and look a bit more relaxed when I'm doing my podcasts or doing my recordings. But I've also got notes on my laptop, right, which I can't see because my laptop is about, not very far away to be fair, about 3 feet away from me. So I've had to go and get my specs as well. I've had to go and get my glasses, which I usually use for watching the telly or for driving. But anyway, so this might go to plan, or I might just sit all scrunched again and lean forward. See, now I can't see. Now I'm just a blur because it's too close. Honestly, it's a total drama. It's like when I'm eating my dinner, if I'm watching the telly and eating my dinner, if I can see the telly, the food on my plate just looks like a blur. Or if I take my glasses off, then I can't see the television, but my food looks amazing. Anyway, first world problems, maybe somebody also said to me, you need varifocals, and I'm like, that's not even remotely funny. Anyway, I know they're not like they used to be. Anyway, that was a bit of a digress, right? So I'm giving you, this is week 3, right? And this is about the scale weight because I want to let you know that the scale, or I want to make you understand that you can use the scale as an unbiased tool, right, for fat loss without letting it wreck your mental health, dictate your food choices and sabotage your progress, because that is ultimately what we do with the scales, right? There are so many tools we can use as progress or to measure progress to see how we're getting on with our fat loss, right? But for some reason, us women especially focus on the scales and attach every single fucking emotion that we could ever. Yes, I have done that this week, all right? This week's scale weight has been actually shocking. At my lowest this week, I was at 68.5 kilograms. And at my heaviest, I was at 70.2, right? So that is almost 2 kilograms, right, of a difference, 2 kilograms of a fluctuation, right? So that is about 4 pounds, right? That is actually ridiculous. And I have stepped on the scales this week, right? And every single day, excuse me, take my glasses off while I read my phone. Every single day, I have pretty much said, what the fuck is happening, right? So, yeah, Thursday, I was 68.5, right? So that was a 1.4 kilogram drop from Monday, right? Which is absolutely ridiculous. By Friday, I was up at 69. By Saturday, I was up a whole kilo to 70. By Sunday, whoop-de-doo, I stayed the same at 70. And then Monday morning, I was up at 70.2. It's just like, it's absolutely wild. Oh, and this morning, it's Tuesday morning, by the way, right? Tuesday morning, it's 68.8. So that was a 1.4 kilogram drop. Honestly, they have been like this. Now, in normal weeks, right, there will always be fluctuations. Even when you're eating maintenance calories, right, and you're maintaining your weight, you will never be the exact same scale weight every single day, right? There's always fluctuations. That's why we take the averages for the week, right? But honestly, I was like, Jesus Christ, it's like so frustrating. Anyway, right, your emotional your emotional reaction to this, right? Even me as a coach, right? I coach midlife women on this every single day, just about, of my life, right? And even I had that instant brain thing of, fuck, like, what is the point? Why am I even bothering? I could just go and eat a bag of chocolate. I could just go and eat some Haribo. I could just go and eat half a loaf of bread with loads of butter on it. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, it's so annoying. Anyway, I'm well past that now. I'm not past those thoughts. I'm past reacting to those thoughts, right? Because remember, I've been doing this is the final 16 weeks of my 2.5 year final fat loss journey, right? So I have been doing this for 2.5 years. I know that if I react to that feeling and eat shitty food, right, I will feel like shit. And I know that the scales will definitely go through the roof and that will make me feel even shitter. So I know not to react, but I totally still have those thoughts. That is the difference between me and you. The only difference is that I started first and I've got more knowledge. That's all. Do you know, you can start now and have more knowledge. It's simple, all right? But as midlife women, as women especially, right, why do we let a metal box that sits on the bathroom floor, right, and for 23 hours and 55 minutes of the day does fuck all, yet we let it dictate our mood, self-worth, and we also let it decide for us what we're going to eat for the rest of the day. Like, seriously, come on, right? So I'm going to try and give you a wee insight. I don't know if I can sit back and do this podcast. I'm just not very comfortable. Anyway, I think I like to sit forward. Right, I'll need to take my glasses off again. Right, so muscle inflammation, right? This has been part of my problem this week, right? I have synovitis in both my knees, which means I have the synovial fluid in your joints, right, which stops your bones scrunching together, basically, is encased in a lining, right? It's encased in a membrane, and that membrane is swollen because I went a bit mental when I did the CrossFit Open, and then I qualified for the CrossFit quarterfinals in my age category, right, which obviously I was absolutely ecstatic about. And I went in and did 4 workouts over 4 days. I went all in. Of course I did. Why would I not do that? Because I'm a CrossFitter. I went all in. Right, anyway, ended up, I did a lot of squats. There was a lot of overhead squats. There was 80 dumbbell squat cleans, right, in one of the workouts, and I did all the 80 with 2 15-kilogram dumbbells, right. I have consistently overloaded my knees, right, so now I'm on no knee training, right. So, but that, if you have an injury, right, it does cause inflammation in your body. It can cause water retention in your body. Both of those things make the scales jump, all right, and they make the scales go a bit haywire. So muscle needs water to heal your body. And it needs calories to heal as well, muscle tissue, right? And all the little micro tears that are in them. So that will increase your scale weight, right? Which is another thing, right? Also, poor sleep. Who's having poor sleep this week, right? It has been, the weather is amazing, right? Me and Cal went out for a walk last night, getting our last 5,000 steps in, right? The water, like, literally out in shorts and a vest. It was brilliant. It was amazing. I can't remember the last time I had really cold hands for a long time, right? And I don't want to whinge about the hot weather, right? Because I've literally whinged about being cold for the last 2 years. I don't want to whinge about the hot weather, but it definitely disrupts sleep, right? Also, this is the hottest house that we have lived in ever. We've been in an old stone Victorian freezing cold house for the last 10 years, right? Also, we've downsized from a super king bed to a king size bed, right? Now, a king size bed is fairly decent, right? But it's not fairly decent if you're used to a super king. So we're trying to navigate all of that, right? The sleep is not the best and hasn't been the best since we moved in, but add the heat into that as well, right? So that's not going to help my scale weight. When you are sleep deprived, right, it can make your body release cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which also makes you retain water, all right? So another reason why the scales are up, all right? The scales are going mental. And there could be millions of other things as well, right? The thing I need you to remember is that the scales do not drop just because you think you've been good, all right? You literally have no control over the scales. You have control over how good a quality the food is that you eat. You have control over your calorie deficit. You have control over your macros. You have control over your daily steps. You have control over your exercise. Those are the things that you need to focus on. And to be fair, you actually need to just kind of not get hung up on the scales, right? And I get it. It's easier said than done. It's taken me a good 2.5 years, all right? But the mental sabotage is not worth it. Believe me, it's absolutely not worth it, right? So the scales jump, right? For me, nearly 2 kilograms over a couple of days, right? I swear to God, I was about greeting. The scales jump, right? You feel defeated. You actually do say to yourself, what the fuck is the point? So what do? You turn into an absolute dick and you eat like shit. Because what's the point, right? So then what happens is your little kilogram water spike, which is exactly what it has been due to injury, lack of sleep, etc., right? You turn that into actual fat gain. Whereas if you just continue with your food plan and making healthy choices, hitting your step target, doing your exercise, trying to sort out your sleep as best as you can, especially in this heat, right? That water spike will disappear. It will disappear, right? So last week I was at 68.5 kilograms at my lowest. My heaviest was 70.2, right? 70.2 kilograms yesterday. This morning I stepped on the scales and I was 68.8. That's 1.4 kilograms, right? That water spike has just about gone. Now, if that was body fat, chances of that disappearing within a day, slim to none. All right, so it's just a data point. It's literally just a data point, right? You didn't need to throw them in the bin. You just need to take your emotions away from it, right? They shouldn't determine, the scales should not determine what kind of mood you're going to be in for the rest of the day and what kind of food you're going to eat for the rest of the day. You have a plan. Stick to said plan. Be your nice, normal, jolly self. True. Right, so overall, my weekly average, right, is down 0.33 of a kilogram. And yes, you're correct, right? That is not a lot. However, if I plotted all this on a graph for you, right, it would be like this. My scale weight this week would be like this, all right? But the trend from here to here is downwards, and that's all you're interested in, right? It doesn't actually matter how much of a downward scale it is. It's a downward, and that's all you need to worry about, right? But also taking your pictures, taking your measurements, being aware of how your training is, being aware of what step count you're doing, being aware of your sleep, and how your clothes fit. Right now, my gym shorts especially, right, feel a lot looser. They feel a lot looser around my thighs and they feel a lot looser around my waist. If I am going to gain body fat and lose body fat, right, it always comes off my waist first and it always goes on my waist first. So for me, feeling how my waistbands feel is a brilliant measure to let me know whether I'm going in the right direction or not. Yeah, so there's better metrics to track progress than your scale weight. But, right, photographs is one of them. I sent my photographs to my coach. Not particularly happy. I wasn't like, I'm not going to ditch it, right? I'm only on week 3. I've got another however many weeks to do the 16 weeks, right? But I am so focused on the side view of my body and the 2 tummies that I completely ignore everything else, right? Even as a coach, and even if it was my clients, if my clients had sent me my photos, right, and they were my clients, I would totally be telling them that they look tighter all over. Because they do. I would be telling them that their guns, their shoulder caps look absolutely amazing, right? And because my coach pointed it out, I'm like, oh yeah, they actually do. I have nice shoulder caps, all right? So this line here, all right, and this bit here. So yes, right. Gym performance. My gym performance has been absolutely fine this week, all right? 5 CrossFit sessions. I did 4 last week, 5 this week. It's been absolutely fine. I have subbed out any kind of squat for something else. I've still been lifting heavy. We've done heavy power cleans, heavy strict press, heavy deadlifts. Still done all of that, all right? And I feel a bit faster. Just because I'm on week 3 of filling my body with good, healthy food, I feel a little less sluggish, which is amazing, all right? Energy and sleep. My energy levels have been absolutely grand. My sleep has been atrocious, Partly due to the heat, partly due to being injured. Every time I turn over, my knees hurt. I've got pains going down the front of my shins. Honestly, it's brutal. So it's maybe not the best week to say, oh yes, my sleep has been awesome, I feel amazing, because I don't, all right? But we're going to get through it. And my clothes are fitting, like I said, you know, I can feel it, especially around my waist, across my thighs as well, but especially around my waist, all right? So I need you to remember about the scales, as in step on them every day, but don't have a drama, because you're just going to take your average scale weight at the end of the week, right? So I added up all my 7 scale weights and divided them by 7. That gives you your average, all right? That takes away any inconsistencies and any massive spikes. So the scale is one metric, right? It is not your judge and jury. That scale does not say, oh, today you weigh 70.02 kilograms, you are a bitch. It doesn't say that. Today you are 69.43 kilograms, you are a nasty person. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have morals, and it's not your judge and jury, right? But a lot of yous are stepping on the scales, and instead of fighting what the scales say and just following the plan, you are absolutely using it as an excuse to go and eat shit and just to give up on yourself. Ladies, in midlife, this is not what we're all about. We're not all about giving up on ourselves. We are all about being fucking awesome. I kid you not, my lovelies, all right? Midlife, we can do anything. You just need a little smidge of self-belief, which brings confidence. Then you'll begin to understand that the scales do not get to dictate how your day pans out. Ta-ta, my lovelies.